Hey guys, this is Aaron Shover and Josh Lucas from Sword Carolina. I missed you guys last week. We were out in a tournament down in Surfo, and I just didn't have time to put together a technique video. But I know you guys forgive us, and we're back this week with the Krumphau. That's right, we're not scared. We know everyone's going to have a different idea of what the Krumphau is and how to do it. Check out our interpretation of it. Try it out. You guys are welcome to have your own interpretations too. This has worked really well for us. We are cutting by crossing our arms over. It is an Oberhau, so I'm cutting from high and going low. A normal Oberhau, if I'm cutting toward you, is how we interpret it. I'm cutting from my shoulder from Vom Tag and cutting down into plow on this side. I could also cut all the way to the floor, but I'm passing through plow on that point. The Krumphau, as I'm cutting forward, I'm still cutting across my body. I'm going to emphasize the stepping out to the side. So I'm not going to step straight forward. I'm going to step out to the side. Still going to bring my sword across my body, but I am going to cut by pushing my pommel under my arm and cutting into this type of position called a Schrankhoot. Now it could be low like this, it could be up high like this. The main point to consider here is that I am cutting my point down, like this. It could also be across my body if I'm using it in more of a defensive posture. I may cut across my body. If I am attacking my opponent with it, I may cut more out from my body. But I'm ending up in this type of position, and here's why. The Krumphau is designed to cut over his crossguard and hit him in the hands. If I cut a regular Oberhau at Josh, and he just moves into one of his normal guards to block it, it blocks perfectly. He's totally blocked, he's fine. If I do the same thing with a Krumphau, I am coming down over his crossguard onto his hands. Now, you do hear it said that the Krumphau breaks ox, but this is not, we shouldn't assume that this is someone standing in ox, because if Josh is standing in ox, and I go to cut a Krumphau, he's going to move before I get there. He's going to do something. He's not just going to stand, or he's going to thrust, yeah. So this works really well as either a defensive type of action or an indus type of action. So the first thing it talks about is attacking the hands as you're being attacked. I'm going to step to the right away from his cut. I'm going to cut a Krumphau against his hands. I'm bringing my sword across my body because I need to defend against his sword. If I just cut weak with the weak of my sword here, it's not going to stop his cut. So I'm still coming across my body as I do it. I am cutting with the strong of my sword and I'm putting force into it. I'm pressing it hard as well. It specifies doing both things. So as he comes at me, cutting with the strong of my sword against his hands and I'm pressing forcefully. It's damaging his hands, but even more importantly is it controlling his sword. If I do it from the right side, I'm going to use the long edge of my sword. All right. And if we do it from the left side, I'm going to use the short edge of my sword. This works equally well from an Oberhau or an Unterhau. So let's have you do the Krump again. Okay. If I come at Josh with an Unterhau, he does essentially the same thing because my hands are pretty much in the same position. And so it works from the left as well with the short edge. The Krumphau can also be used against the flat of your opponent's sword. Now, it's essentially the same move that I've done against his hands, except now I'm doing it against the opponent's sword. So as he cuts in, I'm doing the Krumphau against his sword, once again with the strong of my sword, pressing in forcefully, and eventually locking up his sword. Now, there is stuff he can do from here, but we're going to do that next week. So go ahead and comment all you want. We'll cover that next week. From here, I am locking up his sword. That's going to lead up into follow-up techniques. It doesn't matter if he's coming with an Oberhau or Unterhau. It's the same thing. I'm stepping off to the side. I'm cutting down against the flat of his sword, and it's actually rotating his sword around. This isn't a game-ending cut, though. You have cut his sword. You are controlling the bind, in which case you have the four. You have the ability to do follow-up with your own Nachschlag. So now we're going to do some techniques from there. It mentions two specifically in the treatises. It mentions the thrust and the cut. I'm going to go out on a limb and add the slice as well, because it tells us that from every action, you can do a cut, a thrust, or a slice. So we're going to do all three. So I know. But there is a thrust from it. Let's say if we're at a little bit wider distance, Josh attacks me. I've got him locked up here. we're too far away for a cut, so I'm going to do a thrust. I'm going to wind my short edge against his sword, bring me more of a plow guard, and then I can thrust him from there. So I'm still controlling his sword as much as I can. If I come up off of his sword a little bit, that's okay, but I want to keep my sword in a defensive position. I don't want to come up like this, and he's going to leave him free. If we end up a little bit closer together, I'm going to come in with a cut. So I'm doing the same Krumphau here. Now Josh is in range, I can actually cut with my short edge right against his head. So long edge Krump, short edge cut against the head or to the body. The other one would be a slice. Let's say we end up getting really close together. All right, so before we had long edge Krump, wind the short edge to thrust. We had long edge Krump, cut with the short edge. Now I'm going to actually roll my hands over and do a short edge slice against his arms. So I'm coming over, I'm winding my arms together like this, and I'm unwinding them into the slice. This was really effective. It worked just as well as the other ones. We think it just depends on the range. This works the same way from the left side. So if I'm attacking with a left Oberhau and Josh is doing the Krumphau from his left, it's the same thing, except now the edges are reversed. He's crimping with his short edge, and so now the follow-up techniques are going to be with the long edge. So we're at distance here. He can get his point of line, he does the thrust. You can do the cut from here. Or if we end up really close, it's where he can do the slice against my arms here. I actually had a specific question on the Krumphau from one of you YouTube guys, and I do read the comments. You guys know this. How do you protect your hands if someone's throwing a Krump at your hands? So let's say I'm attacking Josh with an Oberhau, and he's Krumping me. Like, I'm Krumped. I'm done, you know. No, there's stuff you can do from that. I need to have presence of mind, though. If I commit 100% to my attack, I'm going to get hit in the hands with the Krumphau. I need to have the presence of mind to be able to switch and pull back onto my defense. I'm going to do this by winding. Now, we all know winding as from moving one side to the other like this. This is winding. Dobringer actually also includes winding as defensive type motions. So if I have my sword out here in more of an extended fluke or hanging, this would also be a wind, pulling it back toward my body, because this is where I'm strong, this is where I'm defensive. And so a simple way to protect your hands is as I'm attacking and I see him coming at me, I'm going to pull my arms. Instead of completing the cut, I'm going to pull back into one of my guards, either the flug on this side or the ox on this side. And so that's going to pull back and protect my hands from that.